Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Introspection, Grief to Growth. I'm Amy Lindner-Lesser, your host, and I've been doing a lot of thinking the past few days because of the time of year it is when the leaves are falling and the air is, well, I can't say it's still. We've got lots of wind coming up, but what's happening is that the wind is pulling the leaves off the trees, and it's reminding us that at the end of the year, the fall, things die. However, it's not an end, just like death isn't an end, but part of an endless cycle of love and transformation. So I thought we'd talk about one of my favorite holidays, which is a holiday in Mexico, and Halloween. The holiday in Mexico is called Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. There's something about fall that always stirs my soul. The light softens, the air smells like wood smoke, and everything seems to be letting go. The trees release their leaves, the gardens and the plants wither, and even the sunlight feels a little more fragile. And this weekend, I think it's November 2nd, that we're going to lose an hour of sunlight, not a day. For a long time, I saw that as a season of endings, of dying. And after so many personal losses, I've had over 30 just people dying and leaving my life. And that's mirroring what I feel inside. I used to look around and think, yep, this is exactly how grief feels. Bare branches, quiet, maybe even more than quiet, maybe silence, empty spaces where life used to be. But over the years, as I spent more time visiting Mexico and studying about Mexico, something in me began to shift. I realized that fall isn't really about dying. It's about transforming, about changing. Nature isn't giving up. She's preparing. She's returning what's no longer needed back to the earth, creating nourishment for what will come next. Maybe that's what happens to us too. Our bodies, our identities, our relationships, they change, they fade, they end. But the essence of who we are, the love, the soul, the energy, that never disappears. It just takes on a new form. Our bodies are the shells that our souls and our spirits inhabit for our time on this earth. And I've come to believe that the soul doesn't end with the body. It expands. It continues to communicate, just in quieter, subtler ways. Instead of through voice and sound, it communicates through feelings, through signs, through synchronicities, and the whisper of memory that says, I'm still here. I'm here. Dia de los Muertos is a celebration of connection. And I think that's why I've always been drawn to it. The beautiful Mexican tradition celebrated from October 31st to November 2nd celebrates life that has been lived. Unlike the somber ways many cultures like ours treat death, Dia de los Muertos is a celebration. It's bright, it's colorful, it's filled with music and laughter and love. It's believed that during this time, the veil between the worlds is thinning, and our departed loved ones can return to visit during this time. I believe they can come at any time and do, but especially when the veil is thinner. Families in Mexico prepare ofrendas, which are altars, and they're decorated with marigolds, candles, sugar skulls, photos, and favorite foods of the people who've passed. The marigolds, with their fiery orange petals, are said to guide the spirits home with their scent and color. If you've never smelled a marigold, they're peppery. They've got a wonderful scent that will wake up your scent, your soul. And candles light their path. Pan de muerto, or the bread of the dead, is baked and shared, and every item on the altar has meaning. There's salt for purification, water to quench the soul's thirst after their long journey, and personal treasures to remind them of who they're loved by. The most powerful part? It's not about grief in the way we often experience it. It's quiet, hidden, and heavy. It's about remembrance as an act of joy. How wonderful to treat our memories as sources of joy. It's laughter over stories. It's family gathered around a table saying, "You may not be here physically, but you are still part of us." It's music and dancing and culture, because the love that we shared is still alive. The idea that remembering can be joyful is something I think we can all use more of. So often we're taught that grief should be private, tidy, neat, packaged up and hidden, and quiet. Dia de los Muertos shows us that love doesn't end when a heartbeat does, and that remembering is one of the most healing things we can do. And what about Halloween? Halloween is making peace with darkness. It shares ancient roots with the Celtic festival of Samhain, and it has a different but connected message. It began as a way of facing the dark half of the year, acknowledging death and mystery, and inviting our ancestors to guide us. Today, it's become commercial and fun, costumes, candy, decorations, but deep down, Halloween still carries that sacred invitation to make peace with what we fear. We wear masks and play with ghosts, not to mock death, but to remind ourselves that darkness isn't to be feared. It's part of life. It's the other side of light. Grief, too, invites us to face our fears of loss, of change, of the unknown, and to realize that what feels unbearable can, over time, become a source of strength. When we face what we fear, it loses some of its power. Everywhere in nature, we see this truth, that life and death aren't opposites, they're dance partners. One makes space for the other. When the trees release their leaves, they're trusting in something unseen. They're trusting that spring will return and that rebirth is guaranteed. What if we were allowed to trust like that also? What if we allowed ourselves to do that? And what if we could see our grief not as punishment or a burden, but as part of love's natural rhythm? When someone we love dies, their physical presence ends. True. But the love, the bond, the soul connection, that remains. And perhaps, like Dia de los Muertos reminds us, they come closer than we realize in memory, in dreams, and in the stillness of our hearts. Have you been noticing more dreams with people who you love who have died. Sometimes that happens at this time of year. You don't have to build a full altar to connect with those you've lost, though you certainly can. But maybe your ritual is lighting a candle or cooking their favorite meal, wearing their jewelry, or playing their favorite song. Maybe it's sitting quietly under a tree, whispering their name into the autumn wind. Maybe it's going through photographs and reliving memories and smiling about them, remembering times that you laughed together or danced. The small acts of remembrance aren't about holding into pain. They're about keeping love alive. Every time we remember, we give them life again within us. And think about it. As long as we remember somebody, as long as we say their name, their memory lives on. And so they live on. So make it a point of saying people's names, remembering them on special dates and anniversaries. Celebrate their life. If you're grieving right now or revisiting a loss that still aches a lot, let this season remind you that you're part of the same sacred cycle: the falling away, the resting, the quiet. It's all leading towards renewal and rebuilding. So as the leaves fall and the nights grow longer, you may find comfort in knowing that endings are never truly the end. May you feel the presence of your loved ones in new ways, and in laughter, in light, in the quiet knowing that love is eternal. And may this season teach you what fall has taught me: that dying is not disappearance, it's transformation. And that in love, there is no final goodbye, only a change in the way we meet each other. Because the soul never stops speaking if we're quiet enough to listen. If this message resonated with you, if you're ready to move through your grief and rediscover connection, hope, and renewal, I invite you to a free Imagining Your Next Chapter call. It's a gentle space to explore how to carry your loved one's presence forward while creating your own new beginning. And remember, you're not forgetting them. You're figuring out a way to bring them in to the future and into your future. You can schedule one of these calls at the link below. I look forward to talking with you and walking with you on this journey. And go out and make it a great day. Thanks for listening. If you liked what you heard on this podcast and want to hear more, please follow us and tell your friends. You can also find me on Facebook at Amy Lindner-Lesser, Grief to Growth Life Coaching, and on LinkedIn at Amy Lindner-Lesser.